If you're watching this, chances are you were enchanted by my rant. In which case, thanks. But no, seriously, I do appreciate your enchantment with the rant, that is. But now, since the rant is out of the way, let's get to the analysis, elaboration, and deconstruction and justification of the rant. And some corrections. Let's begin. Politeness. It's a magical social lubricant which makes the other person feel that they're not in the wrong even if they are, so that they don't feel shitty about being shitty. Could you perhaps keep it down a little bit? I'm in an online meeting, so if you could please, if it's not a bother, while the person saying it is getting bothered. And even this point about, oh, actually, I have an online meeting going on, is a justification, an undue one. It doesn't matter if you're busy or not, you just don't want to be disturbed. But you can't tell it to the other person. It's like being invited to somewhere you don't want to go, and then you have to say, oh, actually, I'm busy that day. And it's considered rude to be honest and save the other person's time and say, I'm not interested. And when you are being polite and you say, hey, okay, no, actually, I have this online meeting or I have somewhere else to go, you're actually making the other person think that it's okay to shout or play loud music at other times or invite you to events at other times. And I just think it's a waste of everyone's time. In an effort to save someone from the embarrassment, you lie and waste your time and theirs to give them an untrue justification. I mean, like, okay, if you're busy on the day that they've invited you to the first event, they're gonna text you later and ask you on to another. And if you still say no and make an excuse, they'll call you to another. And you can only hope that someday this person would realize that maybe they're not interested. Being honest is discouraged in polite society. I mean, like, it does have the advantage of keeping the options open. Like, let's just say if you have nothing else to do and you have this invite coming up, the invite to this party that you don't want to go to coming up, you can always just go there and say, oh, yeah, actually, whatever. And in having kept that option open, who knows, you might enjoy it, change your mind. But that's not why we do it. We live in a world where if someone is forthright and blunt, they come up and say, sorry for being blunt. It's like, hey, sorry that I expressed what I want to say clearly to you. They're apologetic about it. It's just how the world's been working. Logically, bluntness is just seen as being rude. At face value, politeness is just behaving in a way that is socially acceptable and considerate. But we live in a senseless, overcomplicated age where cringe is held in a higher regard than common sense. And even without it, the idea of politeness is loaded with nuance that could have been entirely avoided. Politeness isn't just about saying nice things, it's more about saying off putting or maybe even offensive things, but in a way that doesn't get you stabbed. It's about strategically disguising your raw, unfiltered human impulses in a soft, socially acceptable packaging. It's the difference between move and, oh, I'm so sorry, would you mind scooching over a little bit? Now, what do you think took more time and effort and just. But here, the latter is a case scenario where you're less likely to be punched in the face, and so here we are. Some call it social butter, others call it social camouflage. Okay, fine, we'll get into the etymology of it. The word politeness comes from the Latin politus, meaning polished, as in not covered in mud or bark or peasant behavior. In French, it was poli, which means to smooth, which is exactly what politeness does to social friction. It smoothens the jagged edges of intent so that your interactions don't draw blood. Overkill, I think, in today's age. In its earliest use, being polite meant being refined, educated, urban, objectively better than other people who were not as polite, uncouth and uncivilized masses. This discrepancy intact says a lot, except, of course, we live in times where the traditional factors like money or heritage or education or power doesn't guarantee class. Though there is a marked difference between the polite and the impolite, and how the world responds to those who indulge in said politeness. Spoiler alert, there's no objective answer. It's situation to situation, it's people to people, culture to culture, mood to mood, tone to tone. It's really just down to luck. Being human is a wreck. So, yes, originally, to be polite just implied that you were not a peasant. You had seen the world, you had been in fine company, and you knew how to behave in that company so as to not put off people around you. It was class warfare, just using please and thank you. The Chinese had Li rituals and manners as part of Confucian ethics. The Japanese developed Keigo or Kaigo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so apologies. An entire grammatical system just to show humility or respect. India had Maryada, the moral and behavioral code of dignified restraint. Europe's politeness boom came with the rise of court culture. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment didn't just bring wigs and powdered faces, they brought rules. Books like the Book of the Courtier and A Little Lord Chesterfield's letter to his son taught aristocrats how to behave. Not because it was moral, but because optics mattered. And, well, they still do in ways, different ones. Politeness became the aristocrat's version of street smarts. Say the right thing, wear the right thing, not at the right time, or die socially. The modern version of it would be to go to a South Delhi party wearing a t-shirt with a large logo, any logo. Modern politeness in what we now refer to as whatever is civil society. Some examples would be like over returning a favor. Someone gets you a gift, you give them a bigger gift. Using the sweetest of words to insult someone. Starting an email with hope this email finds you well, imagining how great it would feel to make them cry. Hiding your punches behind a very thin veil of humor, of course. Of course, these are just a couple of examples. If you want to get into just examples of politeness, be sure to drop a comment down below. I mean, I do have more content, but if you think this is interesting enough, cool. But that's only if you subscribe. Subscribe. Anyway, there's a fun twist to this though. Politeness was never neutral. It's a soft power weapon used to deny without offending, insult without getting punched in the face, and exclude without saying no. Think of phrases like, with all due respect, I was just wondering if maybe it's fine. In diplomacy, politeness is state-sponsored passive aggression. First Opium War in 1839 had among many one trigger, which was that someone didn't bow properly. Peak politeness, the Victorian era, where even table napkins had behavioral expectations. You could be socially executed for placing your fork the wrong way or wearing your afternoon clothes to dinner.
What are you planning to wear? I figured.
The British essentially colonized half the world while living in a culture which says sorry 15 times a minute. This was also around the time when etiquette became a bit of an industry. Books, manuals, finishing schools taught people how to perform humanity acceptably. Acceptable, of course, to the aristocrats. Politeness is convoluted, illogical, and exhausting. And yet we wish some of it was still around today. So, where does that leave us? Find out in the next episode.